Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here. I am really excited for the presentation today. Vered is generously offering to share some of his experience and insights with us. He is Fox Valley Literacy's program and administrative assistant and has served on Appleton City Council as an alderperson since 2014, representing District 2. Vered is passionate about facilitating civic engagement in our community, and today he's going to provide an introductory orientation to local government and to opportunities to get involved with a timely focus on the voting process ahead of the November 8th election. So this is a really great intro for us that hopefully we can go back and share with our students and help them understand a little bit better how our government works, especially at the local level, and why being engaged in all levels of government is important. And then Vered's also going to share a couple resources for teaching so that we can help our students be more active. And anyone have any technology questions or concerns? If not, then Vered, take it away. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. If anything gets weird with the screen or anything, just let me know and I can stop and figure things out, but hopefully it'll just all go very smoothly. I'm really glad that you're taking the time to watch my presentation here. Local government is not emphasized as much, I think, as federal government. So, for example, when our students are studying for citizenship, they learn a lot about federal government and the difference between federal and state, but then they don't really learn as much about what's more like in the local package. So local, when you're talking about local government, you're usually referring to the structure of the state, which then has inside, beneath it is county, and then beneath that is the municipal level. So city, town, or village, those would be the municipal level. So local, sometimes local officials will be used to refer to your state representatives to contrast them from federal, but more commonly local officials is going to be referring to county and municipal officials. So our state assembly right now, these are the representatives that we have and the different districts that exist in the Appleton area. Because Appleton's a really large area, it's not all contained within one assembly district. And there's a link here. If I click on this, does it show you guys the link? Yes, it does, right? Okay. So here you can see how there's a web page where it's really easy to look up what district you're in, who your representatives are. This can be really useful for, if students want to write an advocacy letter, or if you want to send an advocacy letter to figure out who your representatives are, or if you have any questions or concerns about issues that you're reading about in the news, state representatives are there for you to be able to reach out to them. All right, now going back to the slideshow. Let's see if I can actually get the slideshow back.
There's slideshows right here, so we can see all the time.
Okay.
It's just whatever's over there we can't see.
Okay. How do I advance the slideshow from here though?
Click on the screen.
Oh, okay. Okay. Again, I am sorry that that I'm not very technologically competent today, but we're moving forward with this. So in the Appleton area, there are, on the county level, there are 36 districts. So that means there are 36 different county supervisors in Outagamie County. Then in Calumet County, there are 21 districts, and in Winnebago County, there are 36 districts. So because Appleton itself is split between Outagamie, Calumet, and Winnebago, even though most of Appleton is in Outagamie, there are the little bits of Calumet and Winnebago there as well. So at the bottom here, you can see each of the counties have their own website. There's for their county, so that's another resource that you know, you could bring students to show them more about who the county representatives are, and also what are the functions that the county does. So going down a deeper level into local government structure, then we get to municipal or the city level. So the city of Appleton is divided into 15 districts, and each of these districts is represented by one alderperson. Alderpersons are also known as city council members. The word alderperson is not used everywhere, so some people know exactly what it means, and some people have never heard of it, but council member or council representative is another word that means the same thing. So alderpersons are policymakers, they are advocates for residents, and they do not oversee the daily operations of the city. So the mayor is the one who oversees the daily operations, and alderpersons often act as kind of an interface. You know, do the residents feel like the city's doing a good job? The alderpersons let the mayor know, and then the mayor can let staff know if they need to make changes or adjustments. So Appleton.org is the official city website, and again, a lot of very useful information on that website. So kind of a deeper look at local government structure and how it's funded. So the money to make government work, a lot of it comes from property taxes. Property taxes are split between the city, the county, and the school district. So while the state and federal income taxes support state and federal spending, property taxes are what cities rely on for most of their expenses. Now, in the past, shared revenue from the state was really vital to keeping cities running. So the state would give a lot of those that money back to the cities that they collected it from. That was how cities would pay for infrastructure like roads and utilities. But over the years, the state's return of this revenue has been stagnant and even shrinking, even though there's a record state budget surplus. So when we think about how our government works and how all the pieces fit together, it's also important to recognize where it's not working and how those pieces aren't cooperating well right now. So shared revenue, the shared revenue issues in Wisconsin would be a good example of that. So vital functions of local government and sort of what the responsibilities are for local government to do. Libraries are funded by local government. They are run separately. We'll get into that a bit more, but libraries are reliant on local government in order to exist. Then street maintenance as a big thing. So you always think of, potholes when you think of local government, right? That's a big stereotype that's very correct. Potholes are our responsibility in the local government. And there's waste management, water, public health, and public safety. So a little more details about the public library that we have in Appleton. The library board runs the operations and makes the decisions, and then the city council approves or denies funding. So you don't get to vote who runs your on who runs your library, but you do get to vote on who controls their purse strings. So right now, with the public library, we have some delays with bidding for the remodel on the current site due to inflation. So I think this is this is an issue that probably concerns a lot of our students because of the partnership that we've had with the library and being able to use the classrooms and meeting rooms at the library. With that resource not being available right now, because of the library being in its temporary location on Kensington, that does have an impact on us. So just an example of how connected all of these things are, and kind of to show how our students, even though they don't know it, they are big stakeholders in this big community project because of how important it is to our mission here at Fox Valley Literacy. So moving on, street maintenance is one of the biggest responsibilities of local government. In the city of Appleton, we have 343 miles of roads. We have 451 miles of sidewalks. We have 150 cul-de-sacs, 13 bridges, 21 hills, and 28 alleys. So any sort of concerns regarding those whatsoever would be concerns that then residents should bring to their city representatives. We also take care of waste management. Recycling is a county service, but trash pickup is a city service. The city actually has to pay the county per ton for using the landfill. So interesting to understand those relationships and connections between different levels and branches of government. We have a city mulch program that uses yard waste to make free mulch that residents can get at 2625 East Glendale Avenue. So that's just another resource that I like to share and promote that's available for city residents. It's not necessarily the most timely at this time of the year, but if you're wondering what happens to all of those leaves that they're collecting right now, they get turned into mulch. So water, I think, is another really vital aspect of local government. Appleton draws clean water from Lake Winnebago, and then our wastewater is treated, filtered, and released to the Fox River. We have the only DNR certified biosolids composting program in Wisconsin, so that's something to be very proud of. We have a lead service program right now, partially funded through federal money to help replace residential lead pipes. And we have a stormwater credit program, so residents can get a discount on their stormwater bills if they have rain barrels and rain gardens. Public health is another big responsibility for local government. So that includes things like all of the inspections that are done for food service, for restaurants, for retailers, weights and measures. So you want to make sure that something that weighs something in one place is going to weigh the same in another, make sure all those scales are calibrated and things like that. And obviously, after COVID, we're very aware that the public health departments manage communicable disease responses. In another responsibility with local health departments is to serve vulnerable populations. So you have your whole medical system out there with your different hospitals and clinics, and the local health department then focuses on making sure to fill whatever gaps for access there are. Public health departments have been under significant political attack in Wisconsin and around the country, with lawsuits undermining the power of public health officials. So that's another thing to be aware of when we think of what our relationship is with local government. It's not just something that's there for us, it's also something that we need to support and protect. Public safety, I think, is a very familiar aspect of local government. The fire department, the police department, and all of the licenses and permits that people have to have for different activities. More than 50% of our taxes pay for public safety, mostly in the form of paying the salary of firefighters and police officers who are the majority of city employees across departments. I think that the next biggest department is going to be the Public Works Department that works on the streets and stuff. So how to engage with your local government. There are a lot of different options and opportunities. You can look up your district at my.appleton.org by putting in your address. You can also, without even knowing what district you're in, you can go to this page, this link that I'm showing you here, appleton.org/government/common council. You can send a group message to all of the alderpersons at once. So this is a really handy thing. Let's see, just pull it over onto the screen here for a second to show you. So it gives you the opportunity to click here to send a group message, and it gives you a form to fill in where you would put your email address, your name, and whatever you want, and then that'll be sent off to all 15 Common Council members at once. So it's a really, really effective way just to get your ideas or comments in front of an alderperson. All right. So Postal Mail is another way you can contact your alderperson, and again, on the city website, the mailing addresses of all of the representatives are available. All right. So phone calls are another way that you can contact your representative. I think that with local government, a phone call can potentially be the most effective way to have an actual conversation or a dialogue. On the other hand, the phone call is probably also the least effective way to get a hold of your representative. So you could leave a lot of messages with no result, but on the off chance that you do actually make that connection, then you're able to immediately have a conversation. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the first way that you should reach out, but if you're really looking for an opportunity to get to know your representative better and have a more personal interaction, that would be what a phone call would be good for. Email, I did show you that contact form. Email is probably the most accessible and most accessible way to contact your alderperson in general. As far as encouraging students to contact their representatives, though, sometimes postal mail just might, give you more control over being able to like draft and refine a document before it's sent out to the representative. Social media is also a way to contact your alderperson. Can't always guarantee what sort of result you'll get. I think that people read social media, they can't necessarily keep up with responding, but in the city of Appleton, there's definitely a culture of alderpersons really paying attention to social media and keeping track of what's being said about local issues. Some other opportunities that are more indirect to engage with your local government is to write letters to the editor in local newspapers and publications. The Post-Crescent publishes letters to the editor. They do have some rules, and it's important to have a valid address. If you're gonna submit a letter to the editor, they have to make sure there's their own accountability that they have to cover for. So you wouldn't be able to submit an anonymous letter to the editor. You might be able to get your letter printed as anonymous, but you would still have to have your full identifying information for the newspaper themselves to keep track of. Circulating a petition is another way to engage with local government. So there are various formal ways to circulate petitions, and forms you can look up and download online. But you can also create your own petition freehand. So like, let's say we if there was something happening with Valley Transit and they were changing a bus route and it was going to impact some of our students. One of our students could take the initiative to draw up a petition, have all of her classmates at Fox Valley Literacy sign it, and then send that petition along to the city saying, look, here, all the students at Fox Valley Literacy signed on to say that this bus thing would hurt our ability to get to class, or something like that. So petitions can also play a useful role, and they actually are used a lot in Appleton. A lot of times when proposed changes to, let's say, like taking away parking when you narrow a street, or whether or not you're going to be having to cut down some trees, sometimes neighborhoods will circulate petitions. And sometimes there will be opposing petitions too. Some people might have a petition to keep the street narrow, and there might be a petition at the same time to widen the street. So then the number of people signing those petitions really makes a difference, right? So it's a very, very concrete example of how this engagement, even though you're just one person, that can really matter. Attending council and committee meetings is another really great way to engage. And thankfully, because we're all very busy and we can't all go out and attend more meetings, those meetings are streamed live through the city website. They are also archived. So just like how we're recording this presentation today, all of the council meetings are recorded, and any time of day or night, you can go and watch the most recent meetings, or you can look up really old ones if you're looking for history on a particular issue. Attending community events is another really great way to engage with your local government. So at large events, often the mayor is present, and the alderpersons also, not all of them necessarily, but there generally is an effort from alderpersons to attend as well. So if you're out there at community events and there is an elected official there, that's a great opportunity to just go up and say hello. The reason why they're at that event is so that they can have those types of encounters with residents. So your representatives are there to serve you. So the more you engage, the better they'll be able to do their job. Building relationships is what makes the community stronger. Every voice is important. Don't be silent. And I think that this is a really important thing that we can share with our students as well. There are only so many people in a community who are ever going to contact their representatives. If our students are one of those people, then the way that brings elevates the voices of our students into the visibility of our representatives is really important. So we kind of have this idea, I think persistently, that we are so small, and our voice doesn't really matter. But on the local level, it really makes a huge difference. If 5 people talk to you about an issue, and one of them is a Fox Valley Literacy student or tutor, then that means that an entire 1/5 of the feedback that the representative has heard is now representing our interests and our perspective. So just to kind of break it down like that, to get a deeper sense of the impact. And now on to our timely topic of voting. Voting is the most basic way to be civically engaged. In addition to choosing your representatives to make important decisions, you're also choosing how money is going to be spent in your own community. So impacts of your vote include things like how taxes and grants are spent in your community, whether services in your community will be cut, maintained, or expanded, and how laws and ordinances will be enforced. So for example, if a bunch of grant money is available and needs to be divided among different nonprofits, let's say there are 10 very worthy nonprofits, but there's only enough money to divide it among 8 of them. the people that we choose to make those decisions in our community then have a really big impact on the experiences of all of the residents who are using these different nonprofits for services, just to give an example. So myvote.wi.gov is an absolutely amazing website. Whenever you go there, it'll always tell you when the next election is. So the next statewide election is the 2022 general election on Tuesday, November 8th. And there's a lot of different things that you can do on this website. You can register to vote directly from here. This can be a really helpful thing for students. This way you can register to vote without leaving home, as long as you have a camera on your phone. So you can search first to check to see if you are registered. So I'll just put in my information here to show you for an example. Good morning. Actually, I'm not sure how prudent it really is to record this and let someone else be able to perpetually look up my information. So maybe I won't do an example here, but basically once you do the search, then it'll tell you whether or not you're registered. And if you're not, then it'll walk you through the steps to take a picture of your ID that will get sent directly to your clerk's office. One of the really cool things about this website is that it's directly wired into every clerk's office. So whether you're in Appleton, or whether you're in Black Creek, or whether you're in Neenah or New London, you can register to vote using this website, and it'll send that along to the appropriate clerk's office. Other things that you can do, you can look up your sample ballot. So I'm just going to use our address here. I guess it doesn't like that. I'm sorry. So that wasn't a good example. I was originally just going to use my own address for all of this, but since we're recording this, that's one thing I hadn't considered was, do I want people to be able to just permanently log into my voter record on MyVote? And I'm not sure about that. But anyway, whatever questions your students have, whether they just need to update their address, or whether they haven't voted registered at all, or for receiving absentee ballots by mail, you can actually sign up on here for the entire year to receive your absentee ballots. So then even if you don't know what elections are, a lot of times, some years there are August elections and other years there aren't. But if you've signed up for the whole year's worth of absentee ballots, then you'll get one whenever you need one, even if you don't remember that there's an election on that given day. So that's a really helpful thing with this website. Oh, and then of course, tracking your ballot, just that added level of security for being able to make sure that your ballot was received if you're sending an absentee ballot through the mail. That's another thing that I really appreciate with myvote.wi.gov. All right, so I'm gonna move along here, and voting in Appleton, early voting has already started. So it's at the city clerk's office, 100 North Appleton Street on the 6th floor. And this is the city clerk's number here. So you can call this number if you have any questions. There's also a website here that takes us directly to the city election page, which has some, let's see if I can make this a bit bigger just to show you. So in-person absentee voting is going to be going from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Through Friday the 28th. Then we'll have some opportunity on Saturday, October 29th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are really excited to have added this Saturday opportunity. We've been pushing for this for a while, and we were able to be successful. So for students who have scheduled conflicts and challenges, Saturday, October 29th might be a great opportunity. If they're not doing anything between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., you could go to City Hall together and then vote there, you know, on a weekend instead of having to wait for Election Day being a weekday. Then between the 31st and November 3rd, again from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And then on Friday, November 4th, from 8 a.m. until noon. So those are going to be the opportunities for early voting. And on the myvote.wi.gov website, you're going to be able to look up your polling place. Different districts have different polling places, so sorry for moving through that section so quickly, but looking up your polling place is another really important function on the MyVote website. So another really great resource for tutors is the News for You website. And News for You is a subscription that Fox Valley Literacy has access to, or that we subscribe to and make available to our tutors. So if you're going to take any notes right now, this code here, this code here is what you need for the News for You website to be able to get in and look at all of those resources. So there is a really useful thing here on the News for You online.com website, the 2022 voting guide. So you can download it for free, and then it has some really, really awesome information that you can share with your students. So there's information about patterns in voting, who has not had the ability to vote in the past, reasons why people do or don't vote, and what different things get voted on. So this is really comprehensive, kind of much more in-depth than my little local government overview, but it also has much more breadth than what I've been going over today as well. So whether a student is doing a citizenship track or not, this is the sort of information that that anyone here in America can really benefit from. So there are in this resource, there are various things that you can read and discuss with your students at various different levels, depending on how deeply you guys want to explore these topics with your students. And speaking of levels, obviously the very first level is language, right? So there's this great voting vocabulary page at the end of this resource here with a number of different important words. So that wraps up what I had for my presentation today. I hope that this was helpful and that I didn't move too quickly through anything, but if I did, I guess now is the time to let me know, and I will take questions and be happy to discuss anything in more depth.
I have a couple points. I think another way we can become involved is becoming an election inspector. I find that to be very helpful, to be out there in the community with people and to focus them into the community and the city services that they might not be aware of. And another thing is, there were a lot of references for how we can find about what's the council is doing and the like. But I remember having one alderperson, retired dentist, I believe it was, who would, I believe on a monthly or quarterly basis, send to all his constituents a newsletter, maybe it's two-sided newsletter, to let us know what's going on at the city. And this is back in the days when even the Post Crescent was a little bit beefier, and now it's really scarce. You know, like this morning's Post Crescent, there was one article on the new terrace, what we can do in our terraces. But otherwise, you know, finding out for the community, find out information. At least I haven't found other sources other than the Post Crescent.
Yeah, so at the local government level, nobody has a budget for newsletters. So I think a long time ago, when population was lower and districts were smaller and Appleton wasn't as big yet, then even if you were doing it out of pocket, it was still accessible for an alderperson to put a single page in everybody's door. But because of the just kind of the challenges of being able to afford that, different alderpersons have different policies. So for example, I know that there are people who do have a newsletter, they just don't distribute it to everybody. They only distribute it to people that they've, let's say, like made a certain contact with. So like, so not exactly that you have to ask for the newsletter, but if you've asked for something before, then you get on the newsletter list. What I do personally, and what is becoming more and more popular in Appleton, is for alderpersons to have blogs on social media that they update regularly, and then email newsletters. So I send out a monthly email newsletter. I have colleagues who send out weekly email newsletters. So I think that there is a lot of information being pushed out by different representatives to their communities. It's just that it's being pushed out in targeted little packets to different little places. And each of the 15 of us are doing this in different ways. So kind of just because of that lack of any sort of material support, we're all kind of doing our own thing, and it's up to us how much we do. But
yeah, I should just check with my alderperson. Maybe he's already doing it and I just don't know about it. Good point. Thank you.
And another thing that's popular, because we're all doing different things, is you can sign up for different newsletters for other districts. You know, if you're an Appleton resident and you live in District 2 and you get the newsletter from District 2 and District 6 and District 3, then you're much more informed than someone who lives in District 3 and isn't getting anybody's newsletter. You know, so I think just because the 15 of us are going to have different perspectives, the 15 of us are going to sit on different committees and also have different priorities. I think that, you know, the best way to be engaged is to collect them all. Like, sign up for everybody's newsletter, regardless of what district you live in, because these 15 people at the end of the day, when we're voting on the bigger citywide issues, we do represent everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a question. Vera, thank you so very much. This was incredibly informative. And
You're welcome.
I look forward to going back through it again when the tape is available. It's just lots of good information. I had a question on how, can you give me specifics on how the health department serves the vulnerable population?
Yeah, I could probably give you more specifics if I had my budget book in front of me, but there are various different grant funded initiatives and collaborative initiatives with other community partners. I think one of the things is HIV and AIDS. related services. Another thing is the health screenings for refugee populations. So those would be two examples I can think of right off the top of my head. But if you wanted to follow up with me, there is definitely a lot more that I can share with you, because a lot of them are very small programs and then the child wellness visits, that's another one.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I would like to talk with you to get more information on this, because for different ways we're focusing on vulnerable populations, and that'll help me learn about it. So
yeah,
I'll be in touch with you then. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, our new health director, Director Seepers, is he is very focused on strategic planning right now. And he's also really great to talk to. So that's another way that you can get engaged with your local government is city staff. You know, it's not just about the people who are elected. It's our directors who run their departments. They're also a great resource for residents to engage with.
Sure, great, thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments or questions or anything you'd like me to expand about? Sharon, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much. I don't have any further questions.
All right. Looks like we still
Oh, I have one other thing. You mentioned that the state funding has dropped off. I don't remember the terminology you used, but there used to be state money that came in to support local efforts. And that, so my question is, what actions could we take to try to change that?
so the terminology is shared revenue.
Shared revenue.
So the actions we can take to change that have to do with our state level representation. And it's not necessarily a partisan issue either. So obviously, the more of a surplus, the more money the state has, then the more it can spend on the state programs. So this decline and stagnation and now shrinking of the shared revenue is part of what fuels their surplus. So no matter which side of the aisle you're on, why would you think that needs to be changed, right? But it's squeezing governments, local governments so hard now that it's a problem that should not have been allowed to continue. And I think that advocating with the state is the best, is kind of the only way to do that. We're kind of really stuck in a bind, right?
Right.
But our Mayor Woodford and our previous mayor, they advocated a lot about this. So I think, you know, supporting your elected officials who advocate about this, making sure that your elected officials are aware of this issue, which we are in Appleton. Our mayor does a good job of that. But I think, you know, especially people in other communities, in rural communities, if people outside of Appleton want to write a letter to their representative and they don't know what to write about, they could write about this.
Yeah, great.
And it looks like we have a question in the chat from Ann Cato. More specifics about Neenah and Menasha, where many mentors and students reside. So let me see if I can find anything quick to share. I am not so familiar. I know that Neenah has a similar sort of city council setup.
Hi, this is Ann. I just, my student lives in Menasha. I live in Neenah, and most of the contacts you gave were obviously for Appleton. but was a great generic overview of all kinds of things, which was wonderful. But at some point, if you could maybe develop a little more info on the Neenah Menasha events and aldermen and that kind of thing, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure I'm not the only mentor in Neenah, or she's not the only Menasha student. So
Yeah, so I just pasted into the chat a couple of links, one for the Neenah city website and one for the Menasha city website. So
thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, in general, the same general things apply, right? They're going to have their own relationship with whatever kind of library they have. They're going to be responsible for that same range of services, and just thinking here. And it looks like you can also find the agendas and minutes and televised meetings on their websites as well. So it looks like their websites are similarly comprehensive compared to our own.
Thought of another question. TIFs. There's a standard little 2-paragraph blurb whenever a TIF is established in the city. And I'm trying to read through that. And am I understanding correctly that when this TIF is set up, that starves some money from the school district because that money is siphoned off until it's paid back? Can you explain a little bit about my confusion?
So it's kind of complicated. 'Cause you're not taking away anything that they have. It's more that, how to explain this? It's how and when those taxes get paid. So it delays money from getting to them. It doesn't actually take money away from them, though. It takes money that they don't have yet and pushes the horizon out farther.
It is held back from the schools, correctly, though? Until later, until a TIF.
Yeah, so our property taxes are divided between the city and the county and the schools. When you're in a TIF district, all three of those get put on hold and pushed back for a certain time frame. And once that horizon sets, then the money gets split between those three. So it's not being siphoned away from the schools or siphoned away from the city or siphoned away from the county, but it is being delayed from all three parties having that revenue stream.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and it's kind of an opportunity cost, and how big or how real of an opportunity cost also depends on how successful the TIF is, right? So, you know, if the TIF is very, very successful, then the future tax portion that the school district gets could be much bigger than if the TIF hadn't happened. So in the long run, a TIF project could cause more tax increment for schools compared to like no TIF at all. But there are also scenarios where if the TIF doesn't perform and you know, so there's TIF is really complicated, and it's kind of a way to play with money on paper and push things around.
I think it could be taking money away from those three entities if a TIF district takes over an area that had formerly been a taxed district, you know, and is no longer taxed because it becomes a TIF district area.
Well, so TIF means tax incremental financing.
Mm-hmm.
So a TIF district basically allows you to do this incremental structured weird thing with your taxes. So if you have a developer who says, we're going to build something that's worth $8 million and it ends up only being worth $4 million, that can really hurt the county, the schools, and the city. And obviously it'll also really hurt that developer. So that's one of the reasons why when the city is going to approve approve any TIF districts, there's so much expertise from the finance department involved to make sure that it actually will cash flow, and that those incremental, that those years, that whole horizon, to make sure that the math actually works for that being able to pan out. And the state also has some kind of regulations about what can and can't be a TIF district. So we can't just arbitrarily decide we're going to make this chunk of our territory, we're going to put a TIF here. We can't be arbitrary about it at all. Typically, we need different kinds of qualification that the state has very stringent definitions about. So an example, one of the things that can, because TIFs are incentivizing development, if you have a blighted area, if you have a place that actually isn't valuable as a tax district, even if it's being taxed, and it being taxed is still not valuable to you, then that could qualify it for being a TIF. But it's, yeah, there are kind of like rules and stuff set up so that you can't compromise what's already, how to put it. I feel like I'm just rambling, but yeah, TIF is really, really complicated. And whenever we approve new TIFs, there's always an immense amount of involvement from the finance department and from the trained financial staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As when I first learned about TIF, I was like, why would any sane government even allow cities to do this? And then it turns out like, oh, they came up with this as a tool for cities. It's still a lot to wrap my brain around. And whenever we have TIF stuff come up and they share us our packets of stuff to read, I always just read it over again. Like, even if I feel like every time I read more about TIF, even if it's something I've read before, it'll help make more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Anne and Sharon and Miriam. Any other comments or questions from anyone?
No.
Thank you
Great
for your
overview,
time.
and MyVote.gov
program.
is a great link.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your time. And that does bring us to 1:30. So I hope you all have a really beautiful day.
Well,
Thank you.
you too,
Bye.
Vered. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.